Welcome back to Star or Shovelware, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're going to be taking a look at Frog Ball Rerolled on the Nintendo Switch, a monkey ball style platform game where you play as an innocent frog trapped inside a transparent ball and are forced to roll yourself across suspended platforms and into a goal without falling to your death. Now, I probably made the game sound a little bit more sinister than it is, just because I was a little bit bored really. But let's get into this review and see what's what, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content and want to see more. So other than my embellished introduction to the game, Frog Ball Rerolled doesn't really have a story, and so instead I'm going to tell you a different kind of story about its development and publishing. So if you hadn't actually noticed, the Switch version of Frog Ball Rerolled is published by PixArt, and you probably know that I've had my beef with them for quite a while now due to the persistent asset flipping antics. This game, however, is not an asset flip, and it was created by indie developer Dallin Larson, with its original release being on Steam. Now, I contacted Dallin via email to find out firstly whether he'd actually approached PixArt about publishing his game, and secondly whether he was aware of them being one of the most prolific asset flippers on the Switch, and he informed me that the answer was yes on both accounts. You see, Dallin had submitted an application with Nintendo to self-publish his game and received no response. After trying several other publishers and being told that his game wasn't for them, he then approached PixArt, who agreed to publish Frog Ball Rerolled, and they also handled all the porting for the game. While Dallin himself disagrees with asset flipping, it's always been a dream of his to get a game published on a Nintendo console, and PixArt made this happen for him. He was also paid by PixArt for the game, but doesn't believe he's entitled to any further revenue from the sales of his game, and he's admitted that it is a little overpriced, but that's all down to PixArt. So now, before we move on to the gameplay, I want to say fair play to PixArt for helping this guy out when no one else would. I can imagine how frustrating it is seeing all of the shite on the eShop and thinking you've put way more effort into developing your game but can't get it published, and while there is an element of irony to this one, it just goes to show that good old Benoit Verassi can actually use his powers for good every once in a while. Dallin actually provided me with a key for the game, so I want to thank him for that, and so let's get on into the gameplay and talk about what you can expect from this one. So in terms of its basic gameplay mechanics, if you've played any of the monkey ball games, you'll know what to expect with this one. Your objective in each of the levels is simple. Roll your way from the starting point to an end goal, ensuring you don't fall off the floating platforms. Instead of a monkey, you play as a frog, and instead of bananas you collect pineapples, but in essence the concept of both games is identical, although you won't find any minigames in Frog Ball and gameplay is all about reaching those end goals. Now, controls wise, it's been a while since I've actually played Monkey Ball, but from what I can recall, the analog stick is used to control the ball's direction of travel, with the camera angle tilting to give the impression that you're actually manipulating the angle of the platforms. In Frog Ball, the developer has tried to achieve a similar effect, however the ball controls more like a car, with left and right movements of the thumbstick turning it, and holding backwards on the thumbstick seems to have no effect whatsoever. Furthermore, while the camera tilt has been mimicked with some degree of success, the camera angle actually only rotates as the ball does instead of you using the other thumbstick to manipulate it, and all of these things together make it very difficult to actually achieve precise movements, especially with a fixed camera angle. Moving on to the levels themselves then, and it's clear that many of the mechanics have also been influenced by Monkey Ball. You have the usual assortment of thick and thin platforms to navigate, obstacles to manoeuvre between, and sections of levels which rotate or flip, and there is some decent variety amongst the levels. However, again, there is also a whole host of issues with them. Now, to start with, the degree of challenge offered by the levels is very inconsistent from one level to the next. The game consists of 4 different worlds containing 35 levels in total, but rather than levels becoming progressively more difficult, the game often shifts from being ridiculously easy to near impossible, and 2 levels in the final world are a prime example of this, as you're tasked with rolling your ball down a singular straight platform with no obstructions. While effort has been made to come up with creative scenarios for most of the levels, some of them appear to be ill thought out, but this is primarily down to the way in which the game handles its physics, and to put it bluntly, there just aren't any. For example, if you roll down a steep slope in the game and then release forward on the thumbstick, your ball will quickly come to a halt, so there's essentially no forward momentum or gravity in the game. When rolling onto moving platforms, your ball doesn't actually move with the platform, and instead it sits in one place as the platform moves beneath you, which as you can obviously see becomes very problematic in the latter levels where platforms are moving quickly. Finally, there are a few levels in the game where you're required to jump across gaps or over obstructions, but the game doesn't actually feature a jump button, and instead your ball does some kind of strange bouncing motion as soon as the level begins, which makes it very difficult to control, and as soon as you screw up, the bouncing stops, so you'll have to restart the level over. So overall I'd say that Frog Ball is not a bad effort from the amateur developer. If he had got the physics right, I think the controls would have been a little bit more forgivable, save the inability to roll your ball backwards to slow your movement, and the levels themselves weren't bad, and I think a little more focus on getting the difficulty curve straightened out and getting rid of the pointlessly easy and impossibly hard ones would have been a big improvement. I do however agree with him when he says that the game is overpriced, as its 35 levels only took me around 40 minutes to complete, and there's no point in collecting pineapples or going for faster times, as neither points or completion times are actually recorded. I think it's fair to say that Frog Ball Rerolled is by no means a masterpiece, but it's fun in its own janky kind of way, and you can tell that the heart is there with this one, which is more than can be said for most of the other games that Pixar's have published. So visuals and audio then, and there's not an awful lot to say about this one. The graphics are extremely simple, but do sometimes manage to capture that cheery monkey ball vibe with them, that is when the textures aren't going apeshit, and audio wise we get a few simple sound effects, including a voiced ready go sound effect reminiscent of classic monkey ball, and the music isn't terrible either. There are only about 3 tracks and it is a little inconsistent, but it is tolerable. So performance wise, the game runs fine on the Switch, which considering its visuals shouldn't really come as a surprise. Most of the game's issues I've already covered in the gameplay section, but aside from this, for some reason the face buttons are used to restart the level and take you back to the main menu due to there being no real pause menu, and while there may be over 1400 customization options for your character as stated by the eShop description, it's hard to actually tell the colour of your frog inside the ball, and the hats that you can pop on his froggy little head are barely visible, so most of this is actually pointless. All in all though, Frog Ball Rerolled is really a developer's love letter to one of the best arcade games of all time, and it actually comes very close to being a good game, but it just falls a little short due to its controls and a couple of its gameplay mechanics. When it comes to my own personal rating of the game, I'm going to be giving Frog Ball Rerolled 2 out of 5 stars. If you enjoy the monkey ball games, are looking for a game to fill an hour or so with, and don't mind a bit of jank, then Frog Ball Rerolled may be worth a play. Just don't go and pay full price for the game. And so that about rolls up this review of Frog Ball Rerolled on the Nintendo Switch. Are you a monkey ball fan and will you be giving this one a go? Let me know down in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed this review and it helped you out, then make sure to hit that like button, and if you enjoy my content and watch me regularly, consider subscribing to the channel. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.